No, no, you should not get the Victory 4x4 Blitz rock sliders for your Toyota 4Runner or Lexus GX 460. In this video, I'm going to tell you why. Let's start first and foremost with the honorable mentions, which is once the rock sliders are on, they don't center quite correctly. If you center them, they end up falling. They end up being pushed back to the rear. And if you adjust them forward more to center them out, you'll have a gap when you look down, and you'll have a wider gap here at the back, and then you'll have a narrower gap here in the front. Kind of hard to see, but you're going to have a good inch gap in the back. You can see the pavement under there, and then it's going to be tight in the front, and that's getting it centered. So let's start with strike one, which is this bracket came bent, even though it was packaged just fine. All the rear brackets were bent right above that slot, right out of the box. The box wasn't damaged. We had to hit it with a sledgehammer, all the brackets, to get it straight. And then you've got these diabolical button head bolts. But worst of all is this KDSS skid plate, which wasn't aligned, which has a 1-inch gap right there, as you can see. A 1-inch gap. This is Victory's answer to omitting a KDSS skid plate in their first release, and this plate speaks for itself. It is completely pathetic. It doesn't do anything. It misses the mark by an inch, and it doesn't even cover up the front of the KDSS lines. You're going to have to use some self-tapping screws, but strike number two is the KDSS line. Strike number 3 is that many of these holes don't go anywhere. They don't line up to holes, or the hole is too big. So you're going to have to break out your drill and tap and drill your own holes into your frame and through the bracket. So here's an example there of a hole that they say use the self-tapping screw or bolt, but that hole is too big for the bolts provided. No other explanation is given. You're going to have to deal with that not once, not twice, but 3 or 4 times during this install. And you're going to be left with this, a bag of bolts, about 5 pounds of nuts and bolts just left over. So that's what you're going to be left over. Just that's a testament to the lack of quality. This company claims to manufacture this in America. There's a 6-week, 3-month lead time, which is absurd because it's not made in America. It comes directly from China. How do we know it comes from China? Because the quality and the quality control is horrible. So the company will kind of insinuate that you're waiting to have your sliders custom built, but you're waiting for the Chinese fabricator, in fact, to fabricate it and ship it from China to America. I want to go back to these button head bolts here. This was strike number 2 on the list. And this is something that's a big strike and needs to be mentioned again. As you can see, they're button head bolts, and the axis in here is diabolical. What's even more diabolical is the fact that they chose to use button head bolts in an area with limited access. Button head bolts are used when bolts and bolt heads are exposed. They look pretty. But under here, with limited access underneath the car, they should have used hex head bolts, because it is nearly impossible to tighten these confidently, shall we say, using an Allen key and a bunch of extensions. They used these button head bolts instead of hex head bolts because this is what they had this is what the Chinese parts supplier had in the parts bin. So it's again one of those install headaches. You will spend a lot of time with this. But let's recap because I think it's important. Strike one is there's alignment issues, period. If you center the slider, you'll get weird gaps on one end or the other. If you try to correct it, you'll get a gap in a different place. That's strike one. Strike two is the brackets came bent. And then you have to hammer them back. Strike three is the button head bolts, which don't need to be there and will take a simple 3-hour install into a 3-day install. That's strike number three. Strike number four is the diabolical lack of appropriate fasteners and holes that are too big for the fasteners in the bracket. That requires you to spend the time drilling and tapping and finding different fasteners in order to get the thing to fit. So it misses the mark on 4 major strikes, and it cannot be recommended. In order to keep this constructive, there's just a few things that Victory could fix to make this a more positive experience. First of all, the lead times, just say it, it's made in China, and it takes that long to get there from China. Oh, excuse me, I forgot strike 5 was the KDSS bracket that just is simply absurd. I've emailed Victory about it, and we'll see what their answer is. I'll update the description if they give an answer. But strike 5 is the ridiculous KDSS bracket. That, again, is a result of sending an email to a fabricator in China, and instead of an American fabricator doing it himself, that's sending an email to the Chinese fabricator who throws something together and then ships it back to America, and the company not taking responsibility for the flaw in the design. It's a glaring flaw, and no American fabricator would send that out the door. Nor would they send out bent brackets, nor would they put button head bolts in an area that is difficult to access, nor would holes be missed. So again, this is a bit of a rant, but I'm trying to save you frustration. So think of it in a positive light. Steer clear of this. There's many other aftermarket rock slider manufacturers out there. Look into them and get a better fit. Again, keeping it on the positive side, Victory needs to fix these problems. For a product of this price point with this much competition on a car that's so popular around the world, the Toyota 4Runner and Lexus GX, these quality issues are just horrible. And again, that KDSS bracket, how do you explain that?